Hey everybody, it's Amanda, and today I've got the privilege of sitting down with Tania K. Hi Tanya.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Amanda.
Thanks for coming. We just wanted to catch up with you and have a little chat. I don't know if anybody here follows Tanya. I'm sure a lot of you do. But Tanya, just to let people know, what is your Instagram where they can follow you? I want to get that first because you guys need to go listen to her videos.
So my Instagram is Tania the Herbalist. While it's still up and running on Instagram, it's Tania the Herbalist. It's also Tania the Herbalist on Parlor, MeWe, and where else did I join? A couple of other ones that I've joined, but essentially Tania the Herbalist, Twitter across the board. And yeah, I've got a couple of videos there that I like to share. I'm a little less active on Facebook in terms of posting all my videos because the censorship is so real.
Right.
But that's where you can find me. Yeah.
100%. Oh my gosh. So before we get started, I was contacted by the Waterloo organizers for the Waterloo Freedom Rally and asked to put out a message. So the Waterloo rally has been canceled for November 28th, after the debacle. Feeling you guys still hear me?
Yeah.
We're being shut down, Tanya. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprised they're going heavy. Am I frozen or can you hear me okay?
Are we back? Yeah, I know. It's to be expected. We are facing some serious backlash, you guys. So thanks for sticking with us. I guess I said the wrong word at the wrong time because it's been happening all week. So the Waterloo protest has been moved. You still can't hear me? Amanda is frozen. Tanya, you aren't.
Okay. Well, you seem totally fine for me, so I think it should be okay soon. Okay, so the Waterloo event has been canceled because of some unforeseen and foreseen events that have happened. So now I believe it's going to be in Toronto at Dundas Square.
Correct. Oh, we're good now. Woohoo!
Nice.
Thanks, Linda. I'm expecting this to keep going on throughout this broadcast, guys, so I apologize. There's going to be certain things they don't want us to say, and they're shutting us down, like for real. This is even happening on my own cell phone, not live. So just to let you know, so Waterloo Freedom Protest has been postponed, we will say, to go and unify with the Toronto people after the debacle that went down yesterday. Oh, I'm freezing again. Ha! Oh, it's so funny. It's a joke. Anyways, some of the things that I've been asked to mention is there was a lot of panic put out there in Waterloo due to some of the businesses in Uptown Waterloo. And I wanted to address it because people have asked me to. Waterloo City Councillor Tania B was telling businesses that they were the target for direct action by anti-maskers planning to attend the Waterloo Freedom Rally on Saturday. And they mentioned some of these businesses by name and went into them, apparently. So, first of all, it's not an anti-mask rally of any sort in any town. So let's make that clear once and for all. These are anti-lockdown rallies. These people are there to support your business. They don't care who you let in or out of your business. That's not the point of any of it. And anybody telling you otherwise is a fear-mongering, problem initiating, right?
Infiltrators,
like, I'm not swearing today. I said I wasn't going to swear. So please keep that in mind. And there are so many crap disturbers out there, and fear, just instigators. I can't stand it. So just please know that nobody was targeting any business whatsoever. All of these protests are completely peaceful and friendly and family friendly. So we'll leave it at that, because there's a lot more I could say about it. And without naming this business who completely sent people over the deep end, it's absolutely ridiculous. So, just remember that as much as you want to deny these people are trying to support your business, when you're in lockdown and hanging on by a thread, these are the people that are out there fighting for you to open back up and to keep your employees fed with a roof over their head. Okay? So fear may be getting you now, but just remember who you can call on when you've got nothing left. I'm just going to say that. Okay? So you had an awesome video the other day, Tania. I loved it. I love when people come out and ask questions and question the narrative and the whole 9 yards. So what I wanted to do was kind of regurgitate that video to kind of get people to start thinking outside of the box and start, questioning what they're being told, because it doesn't add up with anything that's happening. And I know you know that, but so what do you think are some questions people need to start asking of themselves or of their government officials? What do you think is?
Well, I mean, one of the first questions that I had definitely asked was, okay, so if the first lockdown worked, why are we going into a second lockdown? And if the first lockdown didn't work, why are we going into a second lockdown, right? So this is a basic question. And I know some people could be like, oh, it's people like you that is the reason why. Well, no, because none of these measures were in place before and we had flattened the curve. But, it's really about, and I like to call them media doctors. And I call them media doctors because they're, the ones that are really there pushing the agenda, not ones that are critically thinking and not, paid. But essentially for the government and the media doctors, it's like, if you care so much about the health and the well-being of the people, why is it that you're not educating the public that, wearing your mask on your chin or reusing the same mask is now a contaminated mask that can actually be dangerous for your health, right? Why wouldn't they educate that? If they're pushing the mask so hard and you want to wear it, by all means wear it, but should they not be educating people on the proper use of it, if you're going to wear it? Or, cigarettes and alcohol is my favorite topic to mention. Like, it's one thing, and people are like, well, you don't have a choice. Well, with the virus, you don't have a choice. You have a choice with alcohol and cigarettes. Well, ask an addict if they have a choice. You know what I mean? Ask them. But not just that. It's one thing to have it available. It's another thing when you see it at the corner of every street, of every store available for purchase, when the deaths that happen from these alone are far worse than probably any other death aside from cancer, right? Which some are obviously even caused from it. So that's what's ironic. But if they care so much about the health and the well-being of the people, when you have a true pandemic from alcoholism and cigarettes, well, then make it less available so that people are not, as dependent on it and figure out a way around it versus, focusing on these measures that are, that's why.
Well, my favorite with that is when they say, if they got rid of it, it would overwhelm the healthcare system. I can tell you, with the nurses and doctors that message me regularly,
they're nothing overwhelmed.
The hospitals around here aren't overwhelmed. They're laying people off. And if you're overwhelmed, bring your people back. Exactly. But there is no overwhelming of any kind.
And not just that, like if you're talking, no one's saying to do it, drastically. Remove it so that it's not every corner of every store to every other one. every third one. Let that all gradually happen. You know what I mean? You've invested in these measures. You know, we're in the biggest deficit of ever, right? The highest unemployment, the worst thing in all of G7 in Canada alone. But now you've got, you know, millions and billions actually that were spent on these measures. Well, then hire a bunch more people to take care of this true pandemic that's happening. These are simple questions that we should be able to do if you care about the health and well-being of the people.
Mm-hmm. It's about money, right?
And control. Yeah.
Money. Yeah. Who makes the money off the cigarettes and alcohol and cannabis now?
Government. And then the media doctors have their incentives, obviously, right? So they want people sick because now it helps their pocket as well.
Exactly. Let's talk about the government indemnifying themselves.
That's a favorite one of mine. Well, apparently recently they're trying to say that they want to indemnify themselves of even COVID measures, right? You have Doug Ford and stuff talking about like, well, I don't want to be held liable. Well, you know, if you trust the science so much, then why do you have to indemnify yourself of liability since you trust the science so much and it's so accurate? Back it up. Exactly. You know, it's no different than the immunization industry, I'm going to say. I don't like to call it immunization because there's no immunity, anything about that at all. But I'm going to consider the injection industry, you know, because I don't want to say the word and get this thing shut down. But the injection industry has been indemnified since 1986. Well, since everyone pushes for those so much and you trust the science so much, why do you have to indemnify yourselves of liability? Well, I don't know. I think because in 1985, before that happened, doctors and pharma companies were on the verge of going bankrupt from the amount of malpractice lawsuits that they had from the damages that were actually happening. Sure enough, you get someone like Ronald Reagan come in and, you know what I mean, go ahead and change up the law so that there's no more liability, not to the pharma manufacturer, not to the manufacturing company, nor to the doctor that's injecting this into people, into children, into infants as young as 2 months old or a day old now, because in Canada, they want to start pushing that Hep B, right? As soon as you're born. It makes no sense. If you trust it so much and it's so safe, keep the liability there and let's see. Money talks. So put it up there and let's see how safe your product really is if you trust it so much.
100%. And for those of you that don't know what the Act, when it was introduced in 1986, is all about, you can check out a movie that I love about it called 1986, The Act. It's a shameless plug. I'm sorry. But yeah, it was done by Andy Wakefield, and he's taken the brunt. He was like the pioneer of, you know, being the doctor for coming out with a bad thing against their agenda, right? So he was pretty much the very first one they ran across the coals and tried to vilify over this garbage. So go and check out that movie. It's 1986, The Act .com, and you can find it right there. So that's just that.
I love on the Andy Wakefield thing. I love how, if you notice, and I'm sure you've noticed it probably more than I do, the people that are like the stupid woke, I consider them, just because they think that they're awake, but they're not. And they're like, what do you mean? Oh, that doctor, there's a doctor, Andy Wakefield. And then they regurgitate the same line. It's like in school, they were taught that one line that this guy is not credible. But it's like, have you even watched any of his stuff to say that he's not credible? Because he's not the only doctor that's standing up and saying this. But it's always the same argument. Know what's funny?
Yes, 100%. And you know what's even funnier about that is that this sounds stupid, but I went to the education session for the exemption process just to sit in it and figure out what they were telling people. There is a whole chapter on him in this indoctrination video. It's a half an hour long of nothing but pharma regurgitation, you know, repeat the lie over and over. Maybe they'll believe it.
Yeah.
Right. And there is a whole little blurb in there, a whole subsection on Andy Wakefield. It was incredible. Yeah. We're in Canada.
That's insane. Yeah. And that's what they got to do. That's what they got to do. They got to convince them in some way, shape, or form that it's safe. But there you go. Since you're convinced that he's sharing misinformation, that it causes autism, that it does all these things, fine. Keep the liability there and we'll see what speaks volumes, right?
100%. 100%. But yeah, for those of you that aren't buying that they're trying to indemnify themselves, you need to go take a hard look at Bill 218 that they passed through. I believe it was last week they shoved it right down the tube and said, hey, you know, and there's a few other little tricky things in there that you need to go look at regarding elections.
Yeah.
Elections, right?
You can't sue us. What does that tell you? Right. Oh, you trust it so much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's funny too, because who owns the long-term care homes and retirement facilities? Who owns the majority of them? Do you know?
I don't actually. Government?
Provincial government.
Provincial. There you go. Not surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, no. So what is it? We had 220 deaths.
I think it was 166.
Outside of a long-term care home, and the rest of them all occurred within?
6 deaths outside of long-term care homes. And those are, I'm sure, comorbidities among other things, right? But that's a pandemic, isn't it?
Right. But now, because, you know, the majority are happening in here, we need to indemnify ourselves through Bill 218 of any kind of liability. I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think it's disgusting, and I think it was partially intentional, but that's just my own thought. Anyways, we will move on. I digress and I go off on tangents, so I'm sorry. Side effects of the new vaccines.
I love this. We by the way, we're going to need another one on just this topic.
I know. I know.
Well, here's the thing. So I don't usually like to talk about my personal situation, but when I was at my son's appointment when he was very young, I said, okay, can you just, I want the insert. First, she didn't have it, which I thought was really strange. And I said, no, I want to see it. And I said, okay, well, if you don't have it, I got a copy. And here it is. And how come you're not telling me? You're telling me that it's dangerous for my child if I don't do it. Okay, fair enough. You're doing your job as a doctor. So you're told to tell me about the dangers of not being, injected. I said, okay, but how come you're not telling me that he can have a seizure right after this, or go into anaphylactic shock, or Bell's palsy, or get the disease that I'm trying to prevent as well, right? Or death. Death is written right on it. Oh, but that's a rare side effect. But it's a side effect, right? There's a possibility of it, right? Nervous troubles, tremors, it's SIDS. SIDS is almost non-existent without these injections.
100%.
It correlates with it. So when you've got a list of side effects that, as someone that you're supposed to trust and trust the science, they should be telling you, this is what you do. This is the risk of not doing it. This is the risk of doing it. Because they have no liability, so they don't have to tell you the risks. It doesn't matter, because you can't do anything about it, even if something happens to your own child. And when you watch a documentary like Vaxxed, it's not about science. I mean, there's some in there, but this is not about science. You've got about 250,000 parents that are just sharing their personal stories. You can't ignore that. You can't ignore parents that are being silenced by the media, doctors, and the government when they're telling you this is what happened. As a parent, if something happens to your child, especially right after an injection or anything like that, in your gut, in your life, what caused it. And it's just so sad to see the amount of the side effects, especially when we've got the sickest generation of kids around us.
100%. And if you'll notice, at the beginning of COVID, when all of this started, because I was still doing the Vax Canada stuff and whatnot, and I still do. I just, things have gotten bigger and we had to put our energy all over the place. But they stopped doing the well baby visits for, I believe it was 8 months. And SIDS decreased by what? 36%, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Infant mortality as a whole. Yeah. Yeah. And not just that. When you look at the
tell me that's a coincidence.
There's none. And not just, speaking of coincidences, you talk about they say, okay, SIDS is likely to happen in the first 6 months. Don't put your baby on the belly, this and that. Okay. Well, there's multiple studies that talk about, if SIDS was a real thing, then you would have these deaths occur sporadically through the first 6 months. But it's not. It's ironically at the 2, 4, and 6 month range at the same time that you do the injections. So that's not a coincidence.
100%. 100%. Oh, it's so infuriating, isn't it?
It's just sad to see that people are so uneducated, just trust in the doctor 100%, when I look at it like Russian roulette. All of my friends that are having babies that are deciding to do it, I feel like it's Russian roulette before one of them is affected. Like I had a girlfriend of mine who, unfortunately, she was one of the friends that I lost. We're okay now because I think she kind of snapped out of it a little bit, but I had lost her when she found out that, she felt like my son was a danger. And she was like, I'm not going to bring my son around. And I said, that's fair enough. But what she doesn't realize is she had a perfectly fine pregnancy. And then she got convinced to take the DTaP along with the flu shot. Within a month later, she became a high-risk pregnancy and had to be bedridden. Wow. But she said the doctor said it had no correlation.
Of course it doesn't. It never does.
And I was like, well, did you ask your doctor?
Correlation does not equal causation.
And I was like, well, did you not ask your doctor if it's ever actually been studied on pregnant women? I'm just curious. You know what I mean? Whereas now, have you heard of Attica? Have you recently
heard of Attica?
Attica or something? It's the adult version of the DTaP now. This is brand new, and I have a screenshot of it that I was going to share it. One of my followers actually shared it to me. It's amazing. And she's pregnant. And she says that now the doctors to every single person have to recommend that Attica for pregnant women, which is the adult version of tetanus, pertussis, and
it's still
diphtheria.
Not tested.
No, but now they're giving it to pregnant women. Yeah.
Pregnant women, you are the guinea pig.
Exactly.
You are the guinea pig.
And then you wonder why kids are born deformed or miscarriages are on the rise and all these things. It's horrible. And that's the thing. The only reason we talk about it is because I don't want to see people lose their kids or something happen because you are misinformed.
Right. Right. Oh, if I could go back in time and know now what I didn't know then, like my oldest is fully vaccinated. My youngest, we almost lost. We almost lost her. And that was it for me. Right. Like, and from there, and I mean, I've got a background in medical studies and science and whatnot. So it blows my mind how you just don't see it until it happens to you.
You don't question it. I never questioned it. I didn't question it until it was like about 2 weeks before my first appointment. And I had I'm going to say thank you, God, because I kept having premonitions, Amanda. Constant premonitions where I was shaking my child and he wasn't normal. He was not responding. And it kept happening and happening. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? Like, I don't understand. One of my girlfriends was over at my house one time and I just vocalized it to her. And I was like, I don't know why I keep having this image. Never knew anything about it. Never researched vaxes, nothing. And she's like, well, my niece isn't, right? And I was like, what? And then I asked a typical question. Well, what about school? What about this? How do you say no? This and that. She's like, I don't know, but you can ask my brother and his wife and they'll answer some questions. And they did. And that's when, that night I watched Vaxxed with my husband and it never stopped. The research never stopped. And I was like, I'm lucky in the sense that I do feel like I was saved from something that probably would have happened to my child. I think I probably would have lost him. I don't know. But I just knew that something very powerful was telling me that you need to wake up to it and essentially become a voice to someone that wants to let people know that, you could essentially make a very big decision that you're going to regret because it's not 100% safe. It's not.
Well, you were one of the lucky ones, right? Like we've got that intuition for a reason. And ever since then, that happened to my kid because I had it too. And I was like, no, you're being stupid. Right? Like just, go protect her, go protect her, go protect her. And I almost lost her. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you have that intuition in your gut for a reason. And clearly you're being taught to question it, to go against that narrative.
I've had a lot of people during this time message me a lot asking how I feel about them. And I'll never tell them do it or don't do it. I'll say, no, I personally don't recommend it, but here's some stuff that you should look into and you should consider reading and you make your decision. Yeah. And, and it's kind of nice. Like the one thing that's nice about this whole awakening that's happening right now is it's nice for people. There's never been a vaccine that someone is introducing the way they're trying to introduce this one. So anyone who's all pro-vax, this and that, whatever, are like, I don't want to get this one. It's rushed. I don't want to get it. I don't want to get it. But then when you start seeing who's behind it, and how it's all correlated to all the other ones, they're starting to question the entire system, which is kind of good because it's working to our benefit of having people start to question, the power behind all of them.
100%, 100%. And, it's funny because doctors are now encouraging the CDC to warn patients that the side effects of this vaccine will be no walk in the park. Are you kidding me? So now they're prepping you for the inevitable. Do you know what I mean? They're changing the language. There's no such thing as adverse reactions. Adverse reactions are rare. They're pulling adverse reaction out of the statement and telling you it's no walk in the park. Because if they use adverse reactions, it means that for the last however many years, all the crazy folk like us that have vaccine injured children weren't full of crap.
Exactly. And Bill Gates even said a couple of months ago, right, where he was like, if we're aiming to, inject all 7.7 billion people of the world, and maybe like, what is it? I think he said a 1% might have a reaction or something like that.
700,000 people. And that was in the States alone.
So you mean to tell me that 700,000 people could be exactly. Like, there's no way. You're live speaking about it. And if people want to be guinea pigs, by all means, go ahead. But in no way, shape, or form are you going to try and turn us into the guinea pigs that don't want to. I have a girlfriend of mine who's, she's very active in speaking up as well. And one of her best friends works for the PMO. And obviously I can't say names or anything. And I tried so hard to get my hands on some of these documents, but she's worried about losing her job. But she did confirm that they're going to be making the vaccine mandatory, but they don't know how they're going to deal with the pushback yet.
Yeah. That's where the draconian measures come into play now, because if they can solidify those draconian measures, they feel they have the ability to continue with whatever they want.
Exactly. Of course.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And masking
and
is
you're
a perfect
noticing
example.
You're noticing the lockstep taking place now. Like what they pushed on municipalities is now being taken over by provincial. And soon enough, the federal is going to come in with their little marching orders. And that's when,
people are expecting it this week, next week, right?
Right. Like, we're not stupid. They're going to tell you it's because of the anti-maskers. Guys, this has been planned for months.
Years. Yeah.
Years. Well, yeah, talking to people that are new to this, a lot of people still can't grasp that this is going on. Yes.
There's been a patent for the vaccine since God knows when. There's no way. The reason why they're able to expedite it and make it seem like they're expediting is because they've had it ready waiting. This is not meant to stop a virus. And I actually talked about it with David Icke, where he was saying, like, if there was...
you said a bad word. They're going to cut us off shortly. You said the DI word.
Oh, I'm sorry. David, when I was speaking with David, he was even saying, like, if there was a virus, a vax wouldn't do anything.
No.
But what they're able to do is manipulate it and make it seem like there is one. Whether there is or isn't, it doesn't even matter because the death rate is so small. But, they can't have a real one because through the vax is how they're able to control and keep this manipulation going on. If there was a real one and people were dropping, they wouldn't be able to keep their hold on it the same way. There's no way. There's no more deaths this year. The States is a little bit different, but there's no more deaths this year than last year anticipated without a pandemic. And some people actually fight. It's like the lockdown measures. Are you kidding me? It's not the lockdown measures. You've got, someone like Denis Rancourt, the scientist who's saying, actually, these measures are what expedited the deaths in long-term care homes where most of the deaths are even happening. It's just, it's crazy to me that people can't actually question it and just look at where the deaths are coming from and what's causing these deaths. And you know what? If that's the case, let's interview them. Let's ask them. Are they letting you walk outside? Are they the ventilation that you're breathing in all day long and everything like that? How is the care for you? Because the long-term care had horrible service before, right? The amount of lawsuits that were happening with them was horrible service. I can only imagine the amount of neglect that they're now getting, expediting their deaths, right? So There's no way. You've got no deaths happening from anyone outside of long-term care homes. And if they are, they most likely have comorbidities or died of something else.
Right. Right. 100%. Oh, man. Oh, man. There are so many angles we could go with any one of these questions. That's like, we could sit and have a whole conversation about each one of these questions. And I mean, everybody in the comments has great points. Like, they're phenomenal. Tania is sort of a journalist, you guys. She's really good. I love talking to her.
Thanks, Samantha.
So let's talk about what these measures mean for most people and what those numbers affect. You know what I mean? Like,
well, isolation is something that was used in prison, right?
Yeah.
So and it's all predictive programming, but isolation makes someone go crazy. It'll make them go crazy, and it'll make them start to comply with things just to get some form of sanity. So to even use isolation, especially with the older generations, is horrible. Like, you can't do that, you know. And if anyone actually cares about their liberties or even about other lives, you wouldn't allow isolation. It's the worst thing that you can do to someone.
Right. And it's a CCP tactic as well.
And then you got social distancing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I wish I had that comparison on my phone here, because I would post that up for you guys to see, but I posted it on my
Is
Facebook.
it the coercion?
The comparison between you know, I can't even think right now. The COVID measures versus the yeah.
Yes, I had that chart too. Yeah, I probably
Did you?
it.
Yeah. It's just awful.
Well,
I get so overwhelmed that I forget my words. And
it's a lot. Yeah, it's a
know.
lot. Even social distancing, same thing. I talked to David about this, where social distancing, like you're talking about the heart aura, chakra, whatever you want to call it. I don't usually refer to them as the chakras, but a lot of people do. But your heart, it vibrates feet away from you. That's why it's so important to get people's energy, right? You go to one of these demonstrations and stuff like that, you're empowered because you're feeding off of so much energy. The heart energy is so real around you, which is exactly why they want the concept of social distancing, because you don't have that.
Right.
You're outside of the realm of that, and you can no longer connect on a deeper level with humans, essentially becoming robotic almost, you know?
Right. And they say that the heart energy can flow outward of up to 6 feet. So that's why the closeness is so imperative for you as a whole. Right?
Exactly.
They move other heart energies out of the way, and there's no collective consciousness. There's no unity in that. They're trying to I've
hugged more now. I've hugged people more now than I ever have in my whole life, because I need it.
I've never been a hugger. I have never been a hugger until all this went down.
Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy. So yeah, the COVID related deaths versus the other causes. So would you say that the means is worth the COVID response?
Well, the thing is, absolutely not. It's not, because the virus, the cure is worse than the disease, right? So you, especially when, whether or not there is a virus, whether or not there's a cure, the deaths are so minimal. They're so minimal in comparison to it, that the injection is not, it's not justified. It's not, right? So the measures are causing people to lose their livelihoods, lose their businesses, lose their jobs, lose their sanity. I have a friend who also messaged me, who's a pharmacist, and says, I can't publicly share what I want to share, but thank you for doing what you do, because I can tell you that I have never given out so much prescriptions for suicide and for anxiety and stuff like that, right? So you've got this on the rise. People are losing their family members and they can't even be by their side, but then you got a total random nurse or a volunteer working with them, but their own family can't be by their side. These measures are by far killing and destroying people and destroying children. Children are waking up with nightmares. They're not socialized the proper way. So yes, okay, you guys are thinking so much about what's happening right now, but no one's thinking about the long-term effects and the detrimental effects that's going to be happening to our kids and our kids' kids if they can even get a future by that point.
Mm-hmm. It's traumatic.
It's very traumatic. We're going to have like the most depressed generation of kids coming their way that don't even know how to socialize with people anymore.
No. And what is your take? I don't know if you saw this. I'm sure you did. But yesterday they came out, Doug Ford and Tory, I believe, came out saying that they were now allowing asymptomatic testing in the schools for all these kids.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Kids shouldn't even be in school. That's my opinion. They shouldn't be. I don't trust it. They treat it as like government owned property, right? They don't look at it like a human being for sure. And as soon as that testing starts, I would withdraw your child because they are taking part of the biggest human experiment in history.
Yeah, you're starting to cut out again.
Am I?
Here we go. We're getting into it. Yeah, 100%. And your child's presence in school is consent for them, just so we're very, very clear. Exactly. Okay, those are WHO standards. And then they're going to say they are taking their orders from what the WHO advises, and that is where the WHO stands.
And what people don't recognize is I worry about them shutting down the schools. Like they can, if they wanted to, because everything they're doing is not lawful, right? But if someone tests positive, what's stopping them from doing a total lockdown? I don't know if you saw it a little while ago where CDC was saying to prepare for an overnight sleepover or something like that, right? Yeah. This is how you can start to prepare your child. As a parent, can you imagine your kid and they're like, sorry, someone tested positive. We have to isolate the whole school while we test everybody. We're going to lock it down. Your kid's staying here tonight.
Right? I know. It's absolutely
Parents
terrifying.
wouldn't be okay with that. There's no way. There's no way.
No. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and this is also going to give them the numbers. This is going to give them the numbers to lock down into what they call, what is it, the gray zone? Where it's complete, like Manitoba-ish.
Yeah.
Because it's happening. It's happening in this country, you guys. This country,
the free country,
is pulling on a total communist dictator bullshit. Oh, exactly. I swore.
Yeah. Is bullshit a swear word?
Sorry. I don't know. I feel bad when I do it. So yeah. Anyways, why do you think all the big box stores are allowed to stay open and crowded when I'm pretty sure it's safer to be shopping in the mom and pop stores and you can socially distance and still be cheery and happy? Why do you think that is, Tania?
Well, I mean, it really is part of the agenda 2030, where it's government run and corporate run. They want people dependent on the system. And if you're a small business, having your own means of living, then they can't implement something as simple as universal basic income. They can't control the masses. They want you dependent on the government. They want you to have to get your paycheck, your food, your everything from the government. And when you've got somewhere like Costco, who I've actually boycotted, I don't shop at Costco. I don't believe in supporting something like that, especially when you know how intertwined it actually is to Bill Gates and the CEO and things like that. But they're working with them. It's all part of the bigger agenda. So they want to shut down small businesses, because when the infection rate is so small in small businesses, but yet and I can go and take cash with my own hand, give it to the cashier, give it to the next person. Like when you actually see how they operate in these big box stores, they're no less sanitary than anywhere else. Actually, if anything, I'm sure most of the infections come from there, but they wouldn't ever say that because they can't risk shutting them down. This is a part of the agenda. And I think that's why so many more businesses are standing up right now, kind of being like, how am I being closed? But this place is packed like a can of sardines, and that's totally okay. But because they have gloves or maybe a mask, you think that it's totally, safe now? It's just a way of taking away the livelihoods of these people. And now is the time to rise up and say, no, no.
100%, 100%. And it's funny too, like, I don't know if you saw, the study that came out of Italy and Portugal just last week, but regarding the masking and the testing and gosh.
Portugal disregarded the PCR test now. They're no longer using the PCR test. Yeah, which
why is that, Tania? Why is that?
Because the owner himself said it cannot be used to determine infectious disease. My girlfriend, who actually comes to the rallies too, she is She worked with the RCMP in forensic science. She took biology in school and she studied for a year the PCR test. And that's when she woke up, when she started to realize that they were using the PCR test. And she's like, wait, that doesn't make sense. I studied this thing. Like, this is just meant to see genetic material, but not just that. They're amplifying it at such a high rate that you can find anything if you wanted to, right? You've got so many different strains of a coronavirus, so many strains. And if you amplify it enough, we'll find it in everybody. I promise you will find it in everybody.
Yep.
But now asymptomatic, there's no more healthy people. There's asymptomatic, you know, hypochondriac is going to be the worst thing ever because everyone's convincing themselves that they're sick when they're totally healthy. It's horrible. Yeah. It's a disease.
Or they have a little cold that usually comes at this time of year anyways.
The weather change,
there's
exactly.
No such thing as colds or flus or anything that was the big deal last year.
The best is I was in the grocery store and I sneeze. And anytime I sneeze, everybody that knows me knows I sneeze 3 to 5 times. Always. I've always been known to that. Because all of my friends and my family members, they'll never say bless you after the first time. They'll wait. So I'm in the grocery store, obviously not wearing a mask. And I'm sneezing like 3, 4, 5 times. And everyone's just looking at me like I'm infection. I'm like, relax, it's allergies. Like, relax. You know, I'm allowed to sneeze. And no one says bless you anymore. God forbid, it's the worst thing to say now. Everyone looks at you like you're a disease.
COVID.
Yeah, you sneeze, COVID. Oh, okay. So you mean to tell me that sneezing was invented for COVID? Oh, okay.
Right? Like all
simple common sense. I know.
The common sense is gone. It's gone. I just don't like. And the best part about it is, and you can see it happening in here. They're getting you in and out of my feed. You're going all blurry and then coming back in when you're talking about certain things again. But freedom of speech and censorship, right?
There's a friend of mine who just recently created a new platform called Free Voice, by the way, freevoice.com. I'm going to try and get as many people as we can on there. And voice spelled VOYCE, freevoice.com. And it's essentially very similar to Facebook, but it's going to be a freedom speech platform that we can start pushing so that we can, you know, because I don't know if you saw that even Instagram December 20th has new terms and conditions coming in, which essentially means anyone who's been disabled, like an account like mine who's been disabled, you're gone, right? So they're going to be shutting down a lot of platforms. So it's like, let's get people on to other platforms and means of communication.
100%. Yeah, no, I've been completely disabled once already, and you get the signs every now and then, and it's delightful, isn't it? So I know that Max Canada is going to get shut down. That's 100%.
Especially when you're in the big leagues where more and more people are sharing it, right? Hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of followers. People are like, no, they've got a voice. We've got to take them down.
Yep, 100%. So where do you think people are moving to? Like, what are the more prominent ones without censorship? Where are people moving to? Because I get people ask me that all the time, and I have such a hard time switching platforms just
because it's easier. I know. Well, the thing is for me, I started to push Parler, and I know Gab is one, but I haven't quite created an account there. And I'm sure if I could look at my phone, because I can't keep up with all the apps that there are, but essentially Parler, Telegram, obviously Telegram's a big one. And like I said, Free Voice is going to be one that I think we should push as much as we can so that when this does happen and it shuts down, we've at least got a means of communication that's not completely banned, right? They're eliminating the free speech altogether. It's actually horrible. Yeah. But at the same time, we're winning. We're winning. For them to have to silence that hard, it shows desperation. So I think that's a good thing.
Well, and they have to take control of the narrative, right? So just remember that, people, wherever you're getting your stuff from, if it's from the mainstream, which soon will be Facebook and Instagram and that kind of garbage, and I'm calling it garbage because it's garbage and I just stick around to piss them off on a daily basis, you're going to have to kind of wobble between the two at this point, you know. But yeah, Tania, where can people find you? They're asking here in the comments.
So Telegram, Parler, Instagram, it's at Tania the Herbalist, TANIA the Herbalist. So you'll be able to find me on those 3 platforms for now. Also, you can subscribe to my BitChute, which is in the link in Instagram, and YouTube and a number of other ones. I'll be posting the interview very soon today, so they could watch that too.
You're going to want to watch that interview with Mr. DI. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's actually waiting for it too. So I'm supposed to email it to him too.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
He said that they'll promote it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. So what else were we going to, yeah. So I guess it's up to you guys. You know, you can hide and be scared or deal with
and there's
the
people for anyone who's in
0.01%
Ottawa.
chance.
Yeah, for anyone who's in Ottawa, there are people who are organizing a demonstration December 12th in Ottawa from 12 to 4 at Parliament. That's actually going to be followed by a Christmas motorcade. So it'll be nice for the kids. There's going to be free toys. We've got lots of toys that were donated and stuff like that to kind of hand out and let the kids kind of have a little bit of a normal event. So it'd be nice if everyone wants to kind of come out. Going to be lots and lots of local businesses from gyms, restaurants, everything who just want to protect the last little bit of livelihoods that they have, because these people are, you know, they rely on it to put a roof on their head. Like, you know, these measures don't justify someone losing their home, losing their mortgage, going bankrupt. You know, it doesn't deserve that. So if you guys want to come out to Ottawa December 12th, yeah.
Awesome. And like you said, you know, there is 100% chance that you will not be able to feed your family or put a roof over your head. But there is a 0.01% chance you will catch COVID.
Not die from it, just catch it.
Not die from it and not even have symptoms.
Yeah, exactly.
So please put it into perspective. And for those of you that scream, it's just a mask, put the mask on. If you're worried about us, maybe you should be the one staying home.
Exactly. Amen.
You know, I came out this way. I've lived this way my whole life. I am exempt. And if you're scared of me, then maybe you should be the one staying home.
Exactly.
Or pick up your curbside
and not
groceries.
Just that. Why are we totally okay if this is so deadly? You know, how come we're totally fine? And so many others that I know that can't wear masks. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Well, we talked about the kids too, so that was good. Is there anything that you'd like to let anybody know before we go?
My biggest thing would just be to let people know, do not live in fear. There's a lot of things that are going around, like the global, you know, the Great Reset, this not December 2nd, what's going to happen, all this stuff. Just don't live in fear, because as long as you're living fear on a low energy, you know, frequency like that, it's easy to control and it's easy to keep you a part of the narrative. Mm-hmm. Good always prevails. And that's why we're fighting the good fight, because our faith is overpowers our fear. And once you have strong faith, you're not, you know, you're fearless.
100%. That's awesome. Yeah, guys. So we hope to see you out. Like I said, the organizers are really sorry about Waterloo rally. You know, if you're spewing hate regarding any of these people, take a look in the mirror. Like, you're no better than anybody else. You know, you choose to live a different way, and that's fine. We respect that. We all, you know, we wish you well. We love you, the whole 9 yards. But when you're wishing death on people that are trying to help you keep your business open, take a look in the mirror. You're the one with the problem. That's basically how I'm going to leave it, because I cannot believe the ignorance that the fear has turned people into.
And they call us the selfish ones. I agree. Yeah.
Right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, all lives matters. You know, all of us, we're all essential. All businesses are essential. Freedom is essential. No one determines what is essential to one person and another person. You know, we all have different needs of what it is essential to us. And that's it. Look in the mirror. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and for those of you that are saying that the masks are mandatory, they still aren't, regardless of whether bylaw keeps telling you they're mandatory. There's still the exemption part of the bylaw, and that is in the law. Mm-hmm. So you can keep spewing your garbage, and the bylaw officers can keep intimidating, but they're full of shit. That's my irritation out. It's out. Anyways.
Love it. Thank you, Amanda.
If you guys want to get a hold of us, Tania's told you where you are. Telegram, she's got great stuff on Telegram, Instagram, Facebook. Are you on Twitter?
Honestly, I just created an account, but not very active on it. But you can find me on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
And then Parler, yeah. Parler's a good one. It's a freedom speech platform, so.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. You can find me on Telegram at wokeaf or Amanda Forbes. I'm on Instagram as a Forbes78 that I never ever remember. But thanks, guys, for joining us. Let's pump the algorithms. Give it a like, give it a share, comment. You know, we're here to irritate Facebook because, well, we've got some time left. So let's smash the censors. Have
Thanks,
a great
Amanda.
day, guys, and we'll talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye, everybody.